All right, all right. Welcome back to the Chefpreneur Show. This is the second week that we are going live on our brand new live coming at you from our home studio show. If you don't know who we are, I am Brock Wagner, Chief Operating Officer, co-founder of Chefpreneur. And this is, why don't you introduce yourself, big guy?
Chef Andres, founder of the Chefpreneur movement, and glad to be on the show today as
As
well.
if you didn't know.
As if you didn't know, the big guy over here
The
trying to
big
become the
guy.
smaller guy.
We got
Who am I?
we got some things to talk about today. We got some kind of cool things to talk about. You got a little sheet there. I like that. Looking fresh, looking real.
In my formerly scarred and burnt hands, I have a nice article I want to share with you guys today.
There's actually nothing on it. It's just junk paper.
It's
from
just
the-
junk
from
paper.
the printer.
No, it's not.
Just
It looks like it though.
You're just like,
Actually, I
yeah.
don't know why my printer printed double sided, but
I
it
got,
is
I
what
got
it
notes
is.
too. I got notes
So-
too. See?
So we have some notes. We have some different things. We're actually trying to come prepared.
A little bit.
What?
What?
What's that? No, I'm just joking. You know, we got our mise en
Preparation?
place ready to rock and roll.
Mise en place.
Brock, why don't you, just for everyone out there, again, we're going to be coming at you every Wednesday. We're still trying to figure out the time, so it's been a little sporadic, but we will get the time dialed in.
Mhm.
Why don't you share with everybody really what this show's all about and why they should tune in every week?
Absolutely. I'd love to. So Chefpreneur, we are a company that our mission is to help chefs start, run, and grow their own personal chef business, to basically give you guys the hope that is not in the industry, but that is in being your own boss and starting your own business. So if that's you, you're tuning into the absolute correct show. You're in the right place. It's no accident that you're here. And we're really here to just provide you with as much valuable content as we possibly can. We want to answer your questions. We want to bring topics like we did today to talk about the industry, to talk about ideas, to be just encouraging and to be optimistic and to be hopeful and to explain to you guys who are listening the opportunity that's out there, which is the personal chef industry. It's exploding.
Yep.
COVID did nothing but just cause more and more awareness to that industry, which was, I mean, at some point we'll talk about that too, because that was kind of a crazy year. I'm sure you guys obviously would like to forget it, but as far as that year, it was kind of like, oh, okay, what's going to happen? You know, we have our own personal chef business, so what's going to happen? And then all of a sudden, after a couple months,
Excuse me.
it just exploded. The awareness, everybody's at home, everybody's looking for personal chefs. So now the industry is really at the forefront of people's minds. They really are becoming more aware of the opportunity as clients
Yeah.
to book chefs. It's not for just the luxurious anymore. It's not just for the wealthy anymore. Obviously, you can make a killing at it serving that kind of group, but it's not necessary. And you can create all different kinds of. I mean, the kinds of businesses that have come out of Chefpreneur have been amazing. So anyway, we're just here to provide you with a bunch of great content and free stuff.
Absolutely. And I'm sorry, I'm getting a little cough in here going on. I'm drinking my water, so I apologize about that. But yeah, it's, you know, we're just really excited to bring you guys content this year. And we just want to be at the forefront of the personal chef industry and everything chefpreneur. So again, we're going to be having special guests on the show. We're going to be making sure that you guys are tuning in and really getting a lot of value from the show, because there's going to be some questions that I want to answer from you guys. I want to bring you guys on live and actually ask questions about your business, how to start a business. And we're going to go through that stuff and more in this show. And so thanks, Brock, for just kind of sharing that and giving a nice overview again. But we also want to keep it fun. You know, I just feel like we want to always make sure that you guys are not only getting value, but you're having fun. You're tuning into something. I mean, you might be driving, you know, who knows where right now to work or to a job, just over broke job. You might be just sitting at home doing some, I don't know, work or different things, whatever you're doing. You might be cooking. And you just want you guys to tune in and be able to have a good time with us. And we tend to be goofy. A lot of times you guys don't know how goofy we can be. We can also be serious, but him more than me. But yeah, we're excited to bring you guys on the show today. So first and foremost, you know, just kind of segment into and kind of dive into the show today. I know you have a few things to share, Brock, but I wanted to start off with this article from Bon Appetit. And this is a very, very, very strong case for what I think the industry is and where it's headed, to be honest with you. And I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the restaurant called Noma. All right, Noma is one of the biggest I guess would say probably most famous restaurants in the world. It's been awarded one of the top restaurants, if not the top restaurant, several times on I think Conan Nast World's 50. Um, it's in Copenhagen, Denmark, if I'm not mistaken. But it's a very, very well known restaurant, and it's shutting its doors down. And it's literally the chef is literally quoted saying, "Fine dining is unsustainable." And what's funny is obviously it's not funny in the sense of like the people that are working there and different things like that. I mean, they had a good run. It looks like they're going to be closing down. I believe winter of 2024 will be the last season. Noma, as we know it, is what they're quoted saying in here. But there's a couple things that I wanted to just talk about in relation to this because I really do believe not only is the industry, it's really hard to sustain a fine dining restaurant on that level. And there's a lot of chefs and cooks that get a lot of experience that work at places like that. If you guys haven't also seen the Charlie Trotter kind of documentary on Netflix, or I'm sorry, on Amazon, I would highly suggest you see it. And you'll see a little bit of a different side of Charlie from what maybe you guys knew of him. If anybody knows who Charlie Trotter is, I was in Chicago at the time when he was kind of in his peak. I think he was kind of slowing down at that point. But this is what's crazy is that they're literally saying that it's unsustainable in the sense of basically just to actually not only just make money, but what they're trying to do. And I have my own take on with Noma shutting down in a couple different ways. And so a lot of times I think us as culinarians, we think of it being like art, like an art form, right? And honestly, there's a lot of chefs that man, they produce some amazing
Mhm.
works of art. I mean, it is a work of art. Um, the simple truth of it is though, is that I was listening to, oh man, I don't remember what it was the other day. I was listening to one of the chefs talk about. It was a chef in, I want to say in Boston. I can't think of the name now, but I was listening to a podcast and they had him on, and he was saying that like he won't even open up a restaurant unless it's like burgers, fries, pizza, like things that people eat
Yeah.
on a consistent
Daily
basis.
basis. Yeah.
Yeah. And these destination, because realistically, like Noma is a destination restaurant. Like this is not something that is your neighborhood eatery, right? You're not going there with your children every other Sunday after church or anything like that. This is a world renowned kind of, again, destination restaurant, as they call it, like bucket list restaurant or whatever. And what's sad is that you can charge absurd prices for this art, and it really is art. These chefs pour their whole lives into it, and so I'm not there. There's nothing wrong in saying that, and I know that that's actually true. The problem with this is what I really feel. The problem with this is again is that sustainability. It's not going to be for everyone all the time. And I know that things like the pandemic have really put a hold in some of these fine dining restaurants. Of course, like when I was still living in San Diego at the time of the pandemic in 2020 when it all started. And there's a lot of great restaurants in San Diego, but our personal chef business dinner with a chef was shut down for practically 2.5 months. Like we didn't have any events. We had people coming in from Europe,
Canceled.
canceled. They had to cancel because there was no flights, there was nothing going on. And what honestly what I saw as kind of like started to happen was people are still going to want to have a good time. They're still going to want to have a dining experience, yes, but there's just different levels. And I feel like the levels are, how do I explain this? The levels in restaurants are getting further and further apart. I mean, you have, if you go to any probably, city, town in the United States that's 20,000 people and up, you're going to have some street that's going to have a Burger King, a McDonald's, a Jack in the Box, or a Chick-fil-A or a KFC or a Church's Chicken or any of that stuff, right? So you're gonna have a little restaurant row of fast food, right, off the highway, whatever. That's like main town America. And then you have the mom and pop places that are unfortunately slowly becoming extinct.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this before because think about all the places that, I remember growing up in San Diego. There's this place called Furs. If anybody, shout out to anybody in San Diego who knows Furs. It was this massive like buffet place, but it was really good food. Everything was cooked from scratch. It wasn't very expensive, but it wasn't fast food for sure. But it was a local place. It was a big restaurant, but it was a local place. And those local businesses are still barely hanging on. The good ones are barely hanging on. But unfortunately, like the Applebee's and the Outback Steakhouse and the cheesecake factories and things like that, those are like those mid-range, still chains, but mid-range chains now that are super popular. And it's
Yeah.
really hard to compete with them.
See, that's what actually that's what kind of confuses me about Noma. I guess I would have thought that it would have been still successful
Hmm.
during this
Hmm.
time. I knew that restaurants were going to be having a hard time since COVID, and that really exposed it. But like you said, what I was seeing was okay, well, unless they're like this huge chain, right, that's got millions, if not billions of dollars in their
Yeah.
pockets in order to continue doing that, and they have people coming in daily and everything. And then the really high end restaurants, I thought those two would have been more survivable, right? In those middle ground mom and pop places, like you're saying, that are good food, but they're not backed by, deep pockets, and they're not backed by, um, you know, famous chefs and really high end individuals. Those ones, it made sense. As
Yeah.
sadly as it is, it made sense to me that those would, struggle. But for a restaurant like Noma, like I thought those ones would have actually been a little more secure. So it
Yeah.
honestly, it is surprising me a little bit, but this is the state that we're in, and what us being in the industry, we have to be aware of this
Yeah.
so that we can know and see the trends and see what's going on and realize, okay, now's the time to pivot.
Yeah.
You gotta have a strategy and you gotta have a plan. Working at these restaurants obviously is not going to be sustainable.
Well, that's actually what I wanted to talk about next is where does that leave the chefs and cooks, right? Like think about this way. This is one thing that I've been thinking about, because going back to that point of like having that middle tier restaurant that's a chain still, Cheesecake Factory, Applebee's,
Mhm.
Outback Steakhouse, so forth and so on. When you look at the industry in that sense and in that light, and you have these really, really, really high end places, if you really kind of take a step back and you look at the path for the chef and cook, okay, when you're working at a place like Noma, you're not actually going there to say, hey mom, hey dad, I found like my career, I want to be a chef, and I'm gonna just I want to retire from Noma. That's not what you do, right? Because um it's a very hard and grueling job, and it's very intense,
Mhm.
right? So, as many of you guys know, obviously Brock is the co-founder of Chefpreneur, and although he's a great cook, he
Not a
hasn't been
chef.
he's not a chef in the industry. He hasn't been in the industry. Unlike myself, I've been in the industry since I was practically 16 years old, and working for Ritz Carlton, Four Seasons, so forth and so on. And what I've noticed is, and here's the real truth of it is, where does it leave the chef and cook? Where does it leave us? Because um what's happening is, let's look at the different tiers of it, like just really, really flat out. If you have fast food restaurants, okay, they're meant to be people that are able to follow a process, step 1 through 8, make them make a coffee, push a button for fries to be dropped down, things like that. Now, is there high stress sometimes? Is there like fast pace? Yes, it's fast paced work environment, but there's not a lot of skill needed, with all due respect to say, right? You're not sitting there trying to cook the burger in medium rare, right? At McDonald's. That's not what it is. Okay. Then you move up from that and you go to a cheesecake factory, you go to an Applebee's, you go to something, and you have to have a little bit more skill as a cook or a chef. But again, they have deeper pockets. It's a corporation. And I really want to bring this up because, and I want to bring up, actually, speaking of Charlie Trotter, I'll bring him up a little bit, because in some of these very high end restaurants like Noma, Charlie Trotter, it's hard to create a brand where you repetition. If you've noticed, like Thomas Keller has done a really good job. He's probably the most well-known American chef, one of the most well-known American chefs, right? 3-star Michelin with the French Laundry, per se, in New York, and he has obviously these other restaurants, and he's been able to expand, right, and open up restaurants in different places. However, it's not the same brand, if that makes sense, and it's really hard to do that because places like Noma, the chef creates their whole identity around their restaurant. And Thomas Keller, I will admit, he's one of probably the greatest mentors and chefs as far as a business person. He's actually a great business person. That's something else that people don't talk about, is that you can be a great chef, you can be a great artist, right? You could be a Van Gogh, but Van Gogh maybe didn't know how to slang his own paintings on the corner. You know what I mean? Like, did he really know how to sell them? And
And he cut his ear off.
and yeah, and it's like, yeah, and he was kind of a little loco, right? So sometimes you have to understand that, like, just because someone is a great artist or great chef, it doesn't unfortunately mean that they're a great business person.
Right.
When I'm on the phone with chefs and stuff that are interested in our programs and I'm talking to them, it's like, what's the difference between Mama Joe's Burger Shack on the corner, locally in your town, or McDonald's? Like, we all know Mama Joe's probably has a better burger. We all know that we could probably cook a better burger than McDonald's. But why is McDonald's McDonald's? Because they're number one at processes, they're number one at procedures, they're number one in business marketing, in understanding those things. They spend millions of dollars to know that. And so unfortunately, they're not product driven. I hate to say it, but they're not product driven. And so, like, whereas Noma, some place like this, is like, it's complete to the nth degree product driven, meaning, like, you were coming here for once in a lifetime experience. We're going to give you everything on a plate, 18 courses, where we're like, picking the algae this morning out, in the Denmark, in the water in Denmark. And there's even a spot in this article that talks about, like, chefs plucking duck feathers out in the rain and cold. And there's even a quote that says here, like,
That is Copenhagen.
yeah, it says, which is really, I mean, I hate to say it this way, and this might trigger some of you, but it says, sad but it makes sense. It says, food writer Kathy Irway wondered if this could be the signal of death of tweezer cuisine, which, I'm not trying to offend anybody out there, but this whole tweezer thing, I've never really got on board with that. I'm sorry, people are going to probably hate me for that. I'm not saying tweezers don't have, room to put, like, a nice little, herb on top, but I'm seeing everybody use tweezers for the most dumb. It's like, use a spoon. I mean, for crying out loud. I mean, I grew up at the Ritz-Carlton, old school, where it's like, okay, you're basting a scallop with butter, and then you're also plating it with the spoon. And, I'm not saying, again, tweezers can't help you pick up a baby carrot, but, there's, we had cuisine long before anywhere tweezers. But what I think that they're meaning here when they say that is that ridiculous elevated cuisine, where it's like, here's your one or two or three bites on a plate. It looks, it looks beautiful. The flavors might be like, wow, crazy. But then it's like, that's it. It's like, that's it. Like, if you would stop at 5 courses, you would probably hit up McDonald's on the way home. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not trying to be mean.
Well, you're
But
using tweezers.
well, you're
So
using tweezers, so you might
portions
as well,
can't be too
portions
crazy.
can't be, too big and too lofty. But like I said, it really, like you were saying, like, it's a little bit crazy to know that, like, a restaurant this successful can go down in that sense.
So there's something that came to my mind too as you were saying that, though. It's kind of a weird thought, but this is my business side coming out. What's interesting to me is, like, if you take that article at face value, right? It's, yeah, the restaurant's not doing well. And if we were to look at that and you read everything for what it is, then
Mm-hmm.
that's what it would be. However, for some reason I had a weird thought that's like, what what if it's a ploy? It makes me think of was it Burlington that had like this stretch where they're like, hey, we're
Like the
closing down.
Burlington Co
We're
Factory.
closing
Oh
down,
yeah,
right? Everything's
yeah,
liquidated, everything. And it reminds me of those the Middle Eastern carpet sales,
oh
rugs.
yeah.
It's
Going
like
out of
they're
business now,
always going out of business. They
but
were
they're
going
not
out of
going out of
business
business.
last year, and everything's 50% off, 75% off, and they do it every year. They say that they're closing down 2024. It's still a ways away,
Mm-hmm.
right? But yeah, it's curious. I don't know. It's just a thought that kind of came across. Like, what if it's kind of like, a little bit of a PR
Yeah,
push as
yeah.
well?
And you know what? I'm trying not to go everywhere, but the more I think about it again, man, since starting dinner with a chef and our personal chef business, since I started that, I don't know, almost 10 years now, I really had just such an eye opening. Like, when I first started in the industry, I think every chef and cook really dreams of having their own place. Like, I'm going to be honest with you, that was my dream. When I was 14, 15 years old, shout out to anybody who was watching Great Chefs of the World on PBS. That was my favorite show. I was recording at VHS. I'd come home from school, I'd pour myself a bowl of Captain Crunch, and I'd watch Great Chefs of the World. And that was like my space where and I remember making, like, there was no, like, set recipe. They never give you set recipes. They're showing you how to do it. And I would still do stuff, and I've had a passion for cooking ever since I was young. And I've been infatuated with being a chef since I can remember. When people ask me that, hey, would you want to be a chef? It's like, I don't even remember when I started wanting to. It's how, ever since I was young boy. But, as I got older and I I had a family and things became serious. For those of you guys that don't know my background, not to share the whole thing with you, but I was an executive chef of a resort in Carlsbad, and I was making good money, six figures, and but I didn't have a life. I mean, I was working like an animal. I was a salaried chef, and with a wife and children, it dawned on me really early, and I was still in my 20s when that was going on, and it dawned on me early, like I don't want this. This can't last for another 25 years for me. And I think that there's a lot of different paths. I don't even want to bring up the whole real chef thing, but it comes up all the time because it's really, I'll be honest, like food. I think food has been taken too seriously too many times. I know it's going to be, like, again, I'm going to rub some people the wrong way on the show today, but it is what it is. Like, food has been taken too seriously. I take food seriously as far as, like, yes, good products, treating it properly, proper technique, and that's about the extent of food taken seriously as possible. But I'm really glad to watch one of my good friends, late great Anthony, Chef Anthony Sensei out of San Diego. And if anybody knows him, he was a phenomenal chef. And one things that I loved about, I mean, that guy was on, I think he was with Kevin Zimmerman and the Bizarre Eats and stuff like that. I mean, he was on some shows and and so it looks like we lost our feed here, but we'll bring it back here as long as you guys can still hear me. Um, but basically, just to tell you the story of Anthony Sensei a little bit, like one thing I really respected about him was he would talk about ramen and like growing up with ramen noodles and adding green onions to his 10-cent packet of ramen noodles and things like that. And one of the things that really kind of, again, um, one of the things that really kind of resonated when he would talk about things like that is that even though he was a chef of excellence and quality and wanting the best possible, cuisine, I guess, or best possible products that you can get your hands on, there was also still a nostalgia of some of those, I guess you would say, things that are no longer, the nostalgia of when you were a young child and like wanting to actually have a packet of ramen, okay, like that we all remember. And I think all of us chefs are like that, right? A lot of chefs are like that, where we want the high end, fine dining food, but we have those things that we grew up on. I mean, and what is it, entitins or entertins or what is it, the donuts? I love those donuts, the ones with the little en- entertains. What's that brand?
Probably, I don't know. Where is it?
It's the Y boss. You've seen them.
Probably.
Entenmann's.
Entenmann's? Yeah.
Entenmann's brand of donuts with like the little. They used to have those little, I don't
I
know,
don't know.
sugar
I
balls or
only eat
whatever.
healthy stuff. So
Yeah. Of course you do. Yeah. Meatballs a la crock. But in that sense, I just feel like with a lot of us chefs in this industry, as we're headed into like a very different journey as chefs and cooks, I think there's so much hype on, like, again, with all due respect, that the real chefs are are the ones with just tweezers and their Headley and Bennett, aprons and all that. And I'm gonna step on some toes. Was my grandma a chef? No. Was she a badass cook that could probably outcook you? Hell yeah, she was. My grandma came from a different side. I mean, if you look at even with Chef Daniel Ferdui, our executive chef from Romania, I mean, he was telling me his grandma used to make her own wine, like her own beer. Like, you're in Romania, like,
that's awesome.
you don't got
Yeah.
you're in the hills of Romania. It's like, here's your cabbage, here's your potatoes. Like, he's like, we had our own pigs, we had our own chickens. Like, you're slaughtering everything from scratch. And what's funny is I feel like there's so much hype in the food today, right? That what's funny is that, like, what's trendy is how food's always been, where it's like farm to table. How else should it be? No
Well, and
offense.
when that's been your thing, that's your whole belief system.
Yeah.
That's everything that makes you who you are, right? Like, of course you're going to want to hold on to that. And
Yeah.
that's kind of the problem that we see, is that whether people want to admit it or not, there's there's a fear. There's a fear in the
Mm,
industry right now.
hmm.
And what happens when people are afraid? They go into fight or flight,
Yeah.
and people are going to be fighting to maintain. and to keep, right? And they're going to be scared to move in a different direction because they don't know. They don't know to go in a different direction. It's like my dad was a truck driver all of his life, and
Damn good one too,
a
actually.
very good one.
Yeah.
But you can also see that like that's what he knew. And that's
Yeah.
all I knew. And he used to talk about that.
Yeah.
That's all I know. I know trucking. And so that became his life.
Yeah.
And that was everything to him. That's who he was. And here's the thing, it doesn't have to be who you are.
No.
You can pivot at any point in your life, and you can be so blessed when you decide to go a new direction and try a new thing. And that's what we want to encourage people is to try this new thing because it's showing that it's giving them everything that they've been dreaming for and hoping for in wanting to own a business,
Yeah.
right? And this is the time to do it because I'm sorry, but yeah, regardless, even if that silly thought that came to my mind, that's like, what if it's a PR? Even if it was, why would they do that? Because there's still something underlying that's causing them to have to
They
do
need the
that.
PR.
Like they need
They
it.
need a
Like they
PR.
need, so there's still a struggle, regardless of which way you slice it.
Yep.
There is still something going on that it's not slowing down. Technology's picking up, and yeah, we have to be ready to adjust.
It's so funny, Brock, that you just mentioned that, man. I'm getting goosebumps because when you really think about the big picture of business, period. Okay, so let's even leave food out of it. Like the restaurant industry, the business itself is extremely hard. It's extremely difficult.
Mhm.
And I think the misconception is that a lot of people go into it thinking like, well, if I just have good food. Again, if that was the case, McDonald's wouldn't be McDonald's because they don't just have good food. They have great process. Now, I'm not saying that nobody likes McDonald's. I'm not saying that. However, and there's no bash on any restaurants. I mean, I don't want to get in trouble on this show. Who knows what's going on? But for me, like you said, people are scared. They grow up with this belief system that it's just I mean, it's just crazy. There's one example I don't think I can use until we kind of test the waters out. But when you're talking about opening a restaurant, like I said, when I was young, I wanted to do that because that's like your normal, I think, aspirations as someone who's really wants to get into the culinary arts or wants to like be a chef. Okay. But like I said, I honestly thank the Lord that he spoke to me and said, like, okay, if I'm already working 6 days, 12, 13, 14-hour days, and I go own my own place as a restaurant, I'm completely screwed. Like, I'm going to live there in a cot. And it's not worth it for
And
me.
some chefs do.
And
They
yeah,
literally live in
yeah.
their restaurant.
Now, like Elon Musk, and yes, has Steve Jobs slept in his office? Yeah, but no offense, I believe they changed the world a lot more than Chef XYZ in some restaurant, some city. No offense, like you're talking about big game players that have changed you know the phones we have all in our hands. I
Yeah, and
mean,
what they created was for
it's
millions and millions
millions of
people,
people, and so like,
or
and I'm not saying
billions.
that chefs can't have that impact either, but I'm saying like your restaurant's probably not going to have that impact.
But daily.
Okay,
Yeah,
daily,
yeah.
daily. And your body can only keep up on that. So that's number one. Number two is no matter how freaking good you are and how dedicated you are, unfortunately, you also have to look at the model of the business. Think about that for a minute. Like why didn't Elon Musk just decide one day and say, instead of building electric cars, I'm gonna just build the best typewriter out there? He didn't choose to go all in on something that is a dying technology, right? I mean, that's also the thing that we're trying to talk about today.
Yeah.
Is like I feel like those middle to upper end restaurants that are either chef owned or privately owned. In fact, I've talked to maybe 2 or 3 chefs in the last 3 weeks that have owned restaurants,
Mhm.
and they shut down during COVID, right? And it's sad. It doesn't make me happy to hear that at all.
Right.
But the difference is because it's like, and what happens is I was talking to one of them, I won't say his name, really amazing guy. But it's like I was talking to him, I was like, chef, how did that make you feel, like on an emotional basis? He's like, well, it made me feel like a complete failure. Like I wasn't good enough. But he has to understand that, like, again, it'd be like you still making the best typewriter, but nobody's buying a typewriter.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that nobody's eating, okay? So don't mistake, but I'm people are changing the way they're eating all the time.
I think that's exactly it though, because
It's the
when you
vehicle.
mention
It's the
Elon,
vehicle.
I like that little analogy because it's so they're so far separate, right?
Yeah.
Typewriter and electric car. And you even think, okay, electric car, like there's already cars out there. It's kind of like creating Uber, right? And people look at that and they go, well, there's
Hmm.
already taxis. So, okay, well, there's already restaurants. Doesn't mean that a restaurant can't be successful. Sure, it could be really hard, but what do most successful business people do? They don't just start with where's my passion? Like, where's my passion at? I think what gives you guys a leg up is that you are so entirely passionate about food and about serving people that it does give you a leg up. But here's the difference between the successful and the unsuccessful. Okay. It's that the successful people are looking at the market going, where is the need?
Hmm. Hmm.
And how can I provide a solution? Where's
Yeah.
the problem? How can I find a solution? And the problem in the with the restaurant industry is the shifting market and the desires of the people in the market. It's no longer a desire to go to the restaurant. It's still there, but it's shifting and it's
Yeah.
becoming I desire to have this
That's so good.
at home.
Yep.
Okay. So if we know that, right, then we can go, how do I solve for that? Well,
Yeah.
you meet them where they are.
Yep.
You meet the market where they are. So it's great that you can still exercise your passion. Now you're just doing it in a different way, in a
Yep.
much more successful way and profitable way.
I couldn't have said any better myself. And let's actually, I think we're just getting a revelation on the show right now, to be honest. When we really look at it, let's look at the wave of even how people eat, right? Like how many families out there, how many families in America where you have usually if it's, if it's the couple in the home, they're both usually working, right? Now I'm not saying everybody, okay, but majority they're both working. They have less time together, less time with the kids eating, less time around the dinner table, right? And think about this for a minute. That used to be the norm. Then it became like, and I won't go off on a side tangent. My dad right now lives in Estonia, and he was telling me like back in the 90s. I mean, they basically got their freedom from Russia, right? And so like it was funny because the first year I'll tell this little story just to give you guys context. But in the first year that he was there, he like sent a burger back at a restaurant, and like his he's remarried now, and his wife and her parents were with him, and they were kind of appalled, like you sent a like you're complaining about food you're getting at a restaurant. Do you know how lucky it is that we're able to eat at a restaurant? And he was like, what are you talking about, right? Like because back when Russia was running the country, like only the high up, I don't know what you call them, oligarchs, I don't know what
Right.
you call them, were only able to eat at restaurants. Like the public community was not, they didn't have
Yeah.
access to
So you didn't
restaurants.
complain.
You didn't complain. So then when they open, like when you like literally, I guess my dad's new father-in-law was like, I remember when I first got to eat in a restaurant. And so for him to think like complaining, but now my dad is coming from America. It's like we can complain about anything, right? Because I
Yeah.
mean, no offense, we're have
We
freedom
we
and
can
capitalism.
we complain just so that we're not bored.
Yeah, pretty much, pretty much. So all that being said, like let's think about this for a minute. So it was a luxury to eat in a restaurant, and now it's becoming and it's turning to be a luxury to eat at home. It's a luxury to have time to be like, let me gather myself and my kids around the dinner table. Like that's a big deal. And personal chefs, believe it or not, it's not restaurants. Personal chefs are giving that time back to families. And we're noticing even people that we coach in our programs, a lot of the personal chefs we coach, that's actually one of the biggest selling points is these families want to have that family dinner again. They want to be able to like, oh my gosh, my daughter's 17 or 18, or they're going to be leaving for college, and like I only have so many times that I'm going to be able to sit down at the dinner with them. um as a personal chef, when I was serving clients, and I don't really cook for clients very much anymore unless I want to, but like when I was cooking for clients, it really wasn't about truffles and lobster cream and all that stuff. Don't get me wrong. They wanted good food. And yeah, some of them were like, hey, knock our socks off. What they really cared about was, am I with my family? Is my wife having a great time? Is my husband having a great time? Are my kids having a great time? Is chef, is the chef personal? Is it a fun experience? Like we're renting this beautiful house in La Jolla in San Diego on the beach, and like we got some good food to go with it. Yeah, but we have good times, memories created. In fact, that's what our website says. It's like create lasting memories. Why? Because that's why they're wanting the service. And so you have to understand, as these things, as these trends are moving on, like was Doma an experience? Hell yeah, it was an experience, but you didn't go there to spend time with your family. You went there to experience the chef's art. And unfortunately, I don't know if that's always what people are wanting. There's only a small percentage of people that are looking for that, and that's why they charge five. I think I was reading in this again. Go read this article. It's in if you go to the New York Times wrote about it, but they make you pay for it. And I'm a cheapskate. So I went to Bon Appetit. So you can go to Bon Appetit, and it's a really great article, but like they were charging 500 plus per person
Well, they have
and
to.
still going out of
They have
business.
to. Yeah.
But they have to. And so think about this. As you were saying, we've been saying for a while. I mean, the personal chef industry is growing. And here's what's beautiful about it. More people are looking for something different. They're not going to pay I mean, they could pay 500 for a personal chef. I'm not saying they can't, but they're not going to probably spend $500 per person for a personal chef. But they're going to get a great experience, something very different. Chef coming to their home, they can smell the shallots, the garlic cooking. I'm telling you, there's times where I start sauteing stuff,
Mhm.
and the family like doesn't ever cook, hasn't got together for how many
Oh,
years.
it's
I'm like,
amazing. It's amazing.
oh my God, I haven't smelt our house like this since 10 years ago. And I'm like, and just that nostalgia is like value for them, right?
Oh yeah.
And then so not only that, not only do we believe that the clients are, and then with the pandemic, it like sped it up.
Yep.
Clients are staying at home, they're wanting more of that. Now let's think about this. It actually is a better avenue for the chef as well. Because it's saying here, even here, it talks like in this whole article, it talks legitimately about like their whole internship program and how they're like there's like unpaid internship and paid, and the paid internship was like nickels and dimes, but it was still costing them $50,000 a month because they needed that much labor to tweeze everything. Okay, no offense. Okay, but like, and I'm not, I'm trying to be mean, but I'm being serious. It's what they needed all these staff for. I mean, I remember, I won't mention the
Well, they
restaurant, but
probably got those really nice little gold tweezers.
oh, of
They probably didn't
course,
get the
of
cheap
course. There's a
stuff. It's like
restaurant
the
I won't
really good
mention that I
stuff.
used to work at that made me pick parsley in the
Yep.
walk-in because it was cold and they wanted to keep the parsley fresh. Uh, but like all that being said, where these things leave the chefs? You're gonna go work at Cheesecake Factory? I just talked to a chef yesterday on a sales call for one of our programs, and he was like, "Chef, I really want to enroll in your program. I'm sick and tired of working at Jersey Mike's." I'm like, "You're working at Jersey Mike's?" He's like, "I'm in Midland, Texas. There's not a lot of restaurants here, except for like the chain restaurants. And even them, they're looking at me like, oh, you don't have experience. We just want robots." And he's wanting to be more creative. And I said, well, there is one option for you where no one can tell you what to do and no one can tell you you can't do it. And that's starting your own business as a personal chef. And that's where we help and come in. And it not only opens up the creativity for you and how you want to serve people. And believe it or not, again, I don't care if anybody, you can go ahead and comment and yell at me all day. Some of our most successful students that we've worked with are people that were never even in the culinary field to begin with.
That's
They
right.
weren't chefs, they weren't cooks. And sometimes they deal with confidence issues, to be
Yeah.
honest, because they're like, how are people going to pay me for a skill that I've only done since I was a kid with my mom, but never professionally in a kitchen? And again, going back to my grandma can throw down. Okay, my grandma can make an empanada. I don't to this. I mean, it's taken me. I'll ask Brock right here as God as my witness. I wish I could bring on my wife and she can even comment
Is it the bread?
the bread.
Yeah.
I've tried to make my
Yeah.
grandma's
It
bread
was
for
only like
like 15 years.
it's
I
only like two
finally
months
got it
ago. Yeah,
right.
it was like 2 months
I'm
ago. You said
37 years old and I finally got it right 2 months ago. My grandma's been gone for, God rest her soul, for almost, I think, 10 years now. And she's from South America. I couldn't make it. Now, maybe I don't know. My wife would say it was good, but I was like, this is not my grandma's, right? But like, this is what I'm trying to say is that when you're looking at it from this point of view, where's that leave the chefs? Where do they leave the actual passionate cooks? And there's a lot of passionate cooks that don't do things with tweezers. And again, if you do things with tweezers, I'm not even bashing you, but I'm saying my grandma even used a cutting board. She did the old Nona knife where it's like you held the onion in the hand. Anybody comment that knows what I'm talking about? And she had her little paring knife, and she's literally just doing this. She's just making all these slits in the onion, and then she's dicing it. Slits, dice, slits, dice. Here's my carrot. She didn't even have a peeler. She peeled the carrot with a knife, old school. Then cut it up into the pot where the chicken soup was going on. Like, that is literally where my grandma was at. And to be honest with you, like professional chefs, like I talked to another chef that worked for Gordon Ramsay. And it's like there's so many chefs that have so many talents, there's so many cooks that have so many talents. I think it's not you that's the problem. So let me just be let's just be clear. Me and Brock, as God is our witness today, I feel like that's the revelation I'm getting that people need to hear. You're not the problem. If you cook good food and you love people and you serve them from the heart and it's your passion, you're not the problem. You know what is the problem? The broken culinary industry. It's the vehicle to get you there. You either have to be a tattooed Copenhagen looking like he's, I mean, if you can see, I don't know how much I can hold it up, but like not trying to be mean to the chef, he's a great chef, but he literally is holding a hammer like he wants to commit suicide. Okay. And he just looks bitter. And it's like, that doesn't have to be you. You don't have to go through all this.
Well, in his defense, the article is
Well,
about
the
being
article is about him
unsustainable.
closing
So,
down. Yeah, that's
they
true.
gotta have an
But
image
that's
that
what
goes
I'm
with
saying.
it.
Like he's had his run, and that's great. And again, I don't want to say anything. I mean, this guy has put a lot of dedication and effort into his restaurant, and honestly, like the food looked phenomenal. I mean, I would have eaten. I would have loved to eat in there.
Oh no, of course.
But again, it's not sustainable, and that's the other thing. So, what is a sustainable vehicle for you to showcase your skills to really serve people? And it really is, we believe, the chefpreneur world, the personal chef space, as we call it. And I don't think there's more of an opportunity again now more than ever to pursue this because I don't see it slowing down and I don't see the industry getting better. The pandemic really revealed a lot of
Yeah,
problems,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Well, just
And
ask yourself. I mean, it doesn't take much to see where everything's headed, and this is a cultural change. So
mhm,
let you know, it's not just a market or a business change. It's a world and a cultural shift. And cultural shifts are not little trends that last for a year or two. They last for decades,
oh yeah,
if not centuries. And
oh
just
yeah,
ask yourself, like, if you just took a moment to reflect right now and ask yourself, where are things headed as far as people and going into work every day, being home? Where's technology headed? What is the technology doing? Look at Grubhub, look at Uber. It is making everything so much more convenient, and it's allowing people to stay home.
yep,
People want to stay home.
yep.
Even businesses are struggling now to get people back into the
Back into
office.
the office.
Nobody wants to
Yep,
go back into the office.
yep,
And here's the thing, now the businesses can't argue, oh, well, that causes a disruption in productivity and service and everything else. Well, now there's been so much time that people were home during COVID that the numbers don't lie. And the numbers show that actually they're probably more productive. And I know this from experience and being on the other side in corporate, that was our
yeah,
argument. Oh, well, it makes us less productive. Were there numbers to back it up? No, but nobody was arguing that because no one was staying home long enough to really see how the business was doing. Now that they have, well, it's kind of showing. So the businesses are struggling, right? And people are going to be home. So
exactly.
you can look at this two ways, and it's all based on perspective, but your perspective is your reality. Okay. You can look at this as it's only going to get worse, or you can look at this and you can go, it can only get better. We like to look at it as going, it can only get better because we're on the right side. We're on the
Yeah,
side that's following the trend, following the cultural shift, and we're going to be there to capitalize on it. So you're either going to jump in and catch that wave early, or you're going to be on the beach like a beached whale, and the waves are just going to knock you over
yep.
because you're going to miss it.
I couldn't have said any better. In 2020, one of the things I want to say just real quick, just to add to that, is a lot of people, and I said this on I think on an Instagram live the other day, a lot of people believe that the pandemic created more opportunity. And I said this actually I said it on a podcast too, on Bree's podcast. I was a guest on a podcast, and it's really a mindset shift of understanding that it's not really the pandemic that created the pandemic created certain opportunities, but I'm have more expanded my mentality and my mindset now to know that there's opportunity every day, 24/7. Not just in 2020, 2021, 2022, 2027, there's going to be opportunity. 2031, there's opportunity in 1908, 1912. I mean, it doesn't matter recession times, up markets, down markets, doesn't matter. When your mentality is that there's an opportunity today, like, then there's an opportunity today. And what I said on the podcast was, it wasn't the pandemic that created the opportunity. It was the pandemic that revealed it
Yeah, I
to a
love
lot
that.
of people.
So true.
Because I started my business almost 10 years ago. There was no pandemic. There was nothing driving me other than my own drive, meaning like, I'm done with my 9 to 5, aka not 9 to 5, more like 7 to 1 in the morning, 7 a.m. to 1 in the morning. I was done with not being there for my daughter's birthdays. I was done for not being able to, and I don't want to get emotional, but I know that, going to church is not necessarily like getting me into heaven. My personal relationship with God and Him accepting the Lord as my Savior. But I felt really guilty because I loved going to church and taking my family. And every Sunday I was doing brunch. Every Sunday I was on. And it was very hard for me to get a Sunday off. And all these things in my personal life. And it became to an issue where I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I would rather go 100% all in and start something for myself where I have absolute control. And I was listening to, is it Ed Millett? I think the gentleman, the big guy. I don't know. Hey, if you're out there, we're just starting
I
our
don't know.
show. I want to be on your
I
podcast,
don't
but
know
he's
if you
like way next
scoot
level.
this way a little bit.
Oh, sorry,
You're
but
gonna end up out of frame, and you're just gonna be
yeah,
talking.
I'm just gonna keep talking out of frame. But no, basically, he said something very interesting. He said, on his show the other day, he was talking about how our ability to understand that when we accept full responsibility is when we have actual full control. Like, we have absolute freedom when we accept all responsibility. And I've talked about this on another episode or video about
It's
accountability.
and it's what's his name? Janko or whatever his name is. Extreme Ownership.
Oh yeah, yeah,
I remember the guy's name.
yeah. I mean, and so, like, again, I don't want to get into that whole thing, but like, you have to accept responsibility of where you are, right? I stopped blaming. It sounds weird to say. I was so upset at the culinary industry. I was upset at, unfortunately, like, the powers may be, what do you ever want? Upper management, hotel management, GMs, blah, blah, always writing my tell about 0.1% being over on food cost, or 0.2% being on overtime labor, when I actually saved them like $1,800. That's a whole story. I would get so upset. Then I realized it was like, no one's pointing a gun in my head making me stay here. Like, no one's forcing me to do anything. Like, I can sit there and say, do I wish my leadership was better? Yeah. Do I wish the company was treated the staff better? Yes. But realistically, could I change that? No, but I could change where I was at. I can change my own. I can move myself to a different atmosphere, to a different place. I can start my own business. I can do something where I was going to allow myself the freedom. And newsflash, it's not easy. It was hard,
Yeah.
but it was worth it. And now I'm sitting here, me and you, on a show on YouTube. And just some shout outs. Chef Laney, Ray Sean Coleman is on. What's up, brother?
Hey, Chef Ray.
Shereen Smith, Jennifer, Eric, Erica Dobbs, Cameron Gordon. I'm not for sure if they're still watching, but
Oh,
shout
that's
out to you
awesome.
guys. Yeah, we have
Yeah.
some. And so, but honestly, that was a turning point. And so, I don't know how much more of a perfect storm you guys need. The industry itself is not getting better. The personal chef space is growing. People are looking more for things that you have to offer. You're looking for a better opportunity for your financial side of it, as well as your, honestly, way more importantly than your financial side is your fulfilling side. Like, are you even happy with your job?
Well, the happier you are, the more you're going to make, because
Big
obviously
time, because
you're going to be much more happy doing what you're
the
doing.
the whole story, if you go back to my podcast in the past, like, I literally, the breaking straw was, I pulled up, it was 7 o'clock. I remember the day like it was yesterday, in my car. I did not want to get out. It was 7 o'clock. I usually, got to my office around 7:15. And I sat in my car for 15 minutes, literally, like dragging a dog to the vet, or dragging, I don't know, the dogs that hate getting baths or whatever, when you're trying to drag them. Like, something came over me, like, I don't want to be. And that day, literally that day, I'm like, I'm giving myself 30 days and I'm out of here. Like, seriously, like, I'm done. I can't do it anymore. And I got to a point where I'm just like, I can't do it. So so I just went on with it, man. And again, you know, we won't talk about the rest of the story, but honestly, like God has been good, and I just believe again. It, even if you don't, it has nothing to do with. I'll be very candid with you guys. Like we would love to help any of you who want to start a business. Yes, I don't care if it's us that help you or not, or someone else. It doesn't matter. I care more about you and you seeing the opportunity that's in front of you and the opportune time. I don't really believe there's a more perfect time. And then you have people talking about right now the recession, all this stuff. Ignore all that
Well,
crap.
listen.
Just ignore all
A1
that
steak
crap.
sauce was made during a war.
That's true. So was
If you read the
Volkswagen.
story,
So was Volkswagen.
it's kind of funny. It's like, hey, there's a whole war going on. I think it was a civil war. I think it was during the Civil War. There's a whole war going on. What does everybody need right now? They could use a really good steak sauce.
Yeah, they could.
It's not even the best steak sauce. I'm not a huge A1 fan, but it's funny.
Yeah.
When you look at it that
Yeah.
way, it's like there's a whole war.
Actually, that's a good point.
And the last thing that someone's going to think the world could need is some steak sauce.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what's crazy.
But look,
look,
where they
A1,
are.
how it is, Tabasco, starting in 18, whatever.
Mhm.
Actually, you probably want to know why steak sauce went kaboom? Because everybody was so damn broke, the steak probably tasted like crap. It was rotten, and people
That's
were having to buy
actually
rotten
true.
beef.
See, and that's
So
the
it's like,
opportunity.
You might as well just throw some sauce on that biz, you
That's
know,
hilarious.
sauce it up and make it taste better.
That's the opportunity. It's all about perspective.
That's it. It's all
Look at
about
the
perspective.
opportunity.
And this is what the Chefpreneur Show is about. We want to bring you guys like, this is not scripted. I told Brock when we do the show, by the way, we're cousins. If anybody doesn't know that, we're partners, but we're also cousins. And
the Civil War.
Was it Civil War?
The Civil War.
That's pretty awesome. Like that's crazy. But this is what the show's about. We want to keep it fresh. We want to keep it real. We want to discuss things that are going on now, not only trends, but also like opportunities, things that we can bring you guys. And here's what's crazy. Like Dinner with a Chef, our personal chef business is doing well. And it's like we have things that come up all the time. And we want to bring the journey basically to you guys. Like just whatever journey we can bring to you guys to help you not only see the opportunity, because again, I don't want to say it again, but like it's opportunity is in front of you. It is really in front of you. And we just want to help you discover that. We want to make sure don't worry if our screen goes rainbow. We've been having some issues where you can still hear us. So don't get scared. Okay. Don't leave.
We don't wait till things are perfect.
We don't wait till things are perfect to take action. That's exactly what it is. And so, but that's the whole premise. So we hope you guys enjoy the show. Listen, if you guys want, once this video is uploaded, I'll put the link to this article if you guys want to read it about Noma, and how it says it's, saying fine dining is unsustainable. But also if you guys have any aspect of or aspiration of wanting to start a personal chef business, wanting our help, go ahead and comment. We'll reach out to you. We have a lot of resources even here on our YouTube page. Make sure that you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure you like
the
this
notification
video.
bell as well.
Hit that notification bell. I think we're going to start going live. We're going to be going live every Wednesday. Okay. Yep. So
it might be a little bit later.
It might be a little bit later. We're still working that out. We're still working out, but it's going to be sometime between 3 and 5 p.m. Eastern time ish. And, but we're going to have a consistent time here pretty soon. We've just been trying things out. Of course, as you can see, we've had some tech difficulties,
and if there's any questions or things that you guys would like to see or like to hear on this show, if you'd like answers to, or to talk about, like Andre said earlier, we want to have engagement. We want to actually bring some people on the show. So it'd be really cool if we can get you on the show. So if you're interested in that, comment yes, chef, comment your questions, comment things you'd like to see talked about. And hey, tax season's coming up. So I got one tip for you before we end the show today. Go look up cash basis accounting and just be familiar with it, because tax season's coming up. So there's a little tip for you. So Google money. Cash basis accounting.
Jared Session, hey, how you doing, chef? And then I wanted to just I just got there's a comment that Cameron Gordon wrote, actually two. So Cameron says, still here, guys. The time is now for chefs to change their life. We agree with you, brother. And then he also put the best time. He actually quoted Barbara Corcoran from Shark Tank. He put the best times to move ahead is always in the worst times. And that's always true.
Very true.
It's always true. We love you guys all. We hope you guys had a great time on the program today. Like I said, we're going to be we're going to be coming on live,
Yeah.
hopefully without rainbow
Well, and hey,
screens
listen,
and things
if
like that.
if
But
you'd like to get rid of that rainbow screen and help us out, and this little white box right here that you maybe saw or maybe didn't
oh,
see,
yeah, little white box.
if you want to help out, listen, you guys can sponsor this show. I actually would love to do this creative thing where on the website, we will list you as a sponsor. If you want to, and then your name's on there, your business name's on there, we'll list you on there. But if you want to sponsor the show, the best way to do that is actually to invest in one of our programs. So if you're interested in starting a personal chef business and you need the help and you're open and willing to receive that help to build the legacy of your dreams, be your own boss and have your own business, go ahead and visit our website, chefpreneur.com. Invest in one of our programs. Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Invest in anything.
We
Because
want to make the show awesome.
we use that money to create more content like this. And we're the most innovative company out there that is serving specifically personal chefs like yourself how to start their own business. All right. And we will continue to use that to bring you engaging content, free content, answer questions for you, and really just help you on that journey. So it's the only donation that you're going to get an immediate return on your investment because it's going to give you all the answers and information you need to do this business. And then on top of that, it's uncapped ROI. There's literally
Uncapped ROI.
there's
It's
limitless
true.
ROI. It all depends on you and how you're going to use that information if you're going to take action. But there's literally no measure to it. There's no, hey, 3x your money, 5x
This is
your
not.
money.
Yeah, this is not.
You can 100x your money.
And it's not a get rich quick scheme either, which nothing in this world is, especially in the culinary industry. But we're so used to working so hard, you might as well work for yourself, honestly. And that's really what we're all about. So we have, it looks like the gourmet guide is on, which is Chef Dwayne Ward.
Chef Dwayne, yeah.
We have Chef Magdalise. How you doing, Chef? Chef Laney said, she wanted to know, Brock, if you could spell out what you said to look up. Cash basis
accounting. Yep.
CASH space basis, BASIS accounting. That just means it's not accrual or accounting. So it makes it easy.
Yeah. Cash basis accounting.
I had to say it slow.
Look at it because tax season's here, and for some of you, maybe you started your business for the first time last year and had income and things like that. It's the easiest accounting. Don't make it difficult on yourself. Don't make it complicated. So yeah, look that up. And then we're going to bring more content on next week's show. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited just to bring more topics.
Yeah. Who knows? This show might be like, who knows? We might do more than one day in the future. Like I just, it's been on my heart for so long, and it's just so much. It's so much fun to get on here with you two and just chit chat and have everybody on.
Have a conversation.
And I like to go live. I like to see the comments as well come in. And like I said, once we get a little bit more set up, we're actually thinking about let's show them the vision of what we want. But here behind us, we're gonna have a really cool neon Chefpreneur Show sign, which is gonna be pretty fun.
Yeah.
And we're probably gonna have to upgrade the camera down the road because we're having some issues. But listen, like we talked about, we don't make any excuses. We don't make excuses. We just want to get in front of you guys. And we know that you guys aren't looking at us saying, oh, they're not in 4K, I'm not going to watch the show. No, we know that you guys are wanting to tune in because, again, we want to bring you guys this content.
If we're going to ask anybody to do something that they're not sure of how to do, or that they're afraid to do, or that they're like, it's not perfect yet, I don't want to put it out there. Like, we have to be the leaders. We have to preach and do what we preach. We're here taking action. We want you to take action. We're imperfect. We know that you're most likely going to be imperfect in all those things. If you are perfect, great for you. But I'll argue that's probably not
true. Your name must be Jesus.
but that's just it. You just got to take action.
That's it. Take action.
And that's what we're doing here today. So
take action.
To, encourage you.
We don't know. Listen, yesterday's gone. Tomorrow's not promised. All you got is today. So with that being said,
we'll close with that cheesy little
It's not cliche. Cheesy. It's the truth.
It is the truth.
Okay. You got today and probably tomorrow by midnight. That was joking. All right, guys. Well, we love you guys very much. God bless you guys all. We can't wait to see you guys next Wednesday on the Chefpreneur Show. Take care. God bless you. Again, visit our website, chefpreneur.com. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell for notifications. And again, we can't wait to come at you guys live again next week. Take care. God bless.
Thanks, guys.